Welcome back to Riders Reset. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this challenge. I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. For today's video, we have another riding exercise, and this one might be a little bit more challenging. So again, you can modify this depending on your level. You can either practice at the standstill with somebody holding your horse. You can just do it in the walk, trot, or if you're advanced, feel free to practice in the canter. So when we're using the 2-point, people often will think about it just over fences, but the 2-point is something that you do want to practice so that you get very comfortable in the position so that if you do ever jump, you feel really comfortable finding that same place. So when you're riding the 2-point, there's a couple of important key things to think about with your position. First is you want to have a fold at your pelvis. So it's really important to understand where the fold comes from. We don't want to collapse from here. That's leaving us pretty unstable. What we want is that we want to hinge from the pelvis, from the hip joint. So what happens when I do that is my whole body leans forward. Now for demonstration purposes today, I'm not going to change the length of my stirrup. If I was jumping a big fence, these stirrups would be entirely too long because the amount of fold I have with my body depends on the height of the jump. So when the horse comes to me, they close that gap as I'm folding further down, and that's where my stirrup leather needs to be shorter to support my body needing to come more forward. But since we're practicing again here at the standstill and just on the flat, I'm not going to change my stirrup length. But here I am hinging just slightly from my upper body, and I'm going to hold my hands right here. Now, it's an important thing to make note of. A lot of times when you're first practicing 2-point, instructors will have you grab the horse's mane. And while this has a place if you are starting to get a little out of balance and you might need to just sort of save your position, that's okay. I personally don't like relying on holding onto the mane because it can become a crutch, and then it could also be that you're holding the position longer than you should be. So if you're finding that you need to grab mane, time to just come back to your regular position and rest. So again, I'm going to have my hands up here. I'm still going to have that same fold in my elbow, and I'm still trying to have that straight line from bit or corner of the mouth in her case to elbow. I'm still going to stay in my same position through here with my leg really stable and underneath of me. I'm going to go ahead and just let her walk. And you'll notice that there's actually very little space between my seat and the saddle. And if you're wondering why that is, that's because, again, we're at the walk. There's not any suspension in the walk. And that is what's going to give you that air between you and the horse. Also, if I had a shorter stirrup and I had more of a fold, there would be more sunlight between my seat and the saddle. So it's just different degrees of the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the trot. And you might notice here that there's a little bit more sunlight because there's suspension at the trot. I'm not relying on my hands for balance. And I'm staying soft in my joints, in my ankle, in my knee, and in my hip so that I can continue to absorb her movement. If I were to brace and push and lock, I start to really bounce, I lose my balance, and she's all kinds of confused. So that's not what we don't want to do. Let your horse be the feedback for you to tell you exactly what's going on. So if your horse is braking, seems a little uncomfortable, take a second, reflect, see what's going on in your body, and then start the exercise again. Start it from the walk, practice at the standstill, take it back a step so that you can really have a solid foundation before you move into doing this in the higher gaits. Again, I like to use 2-point while I'm warming up, practicing to just sort of get my body warmed up, feel comfortable, get my horse ready for the ride. She kind of got a little perked up when I started doing it when we were just at the standstill, because she knows that that's sort of us gearing up for the ride. So I hope you've enjoyed this explanation of the 2-point. Practice this again on the flat to just get super comfortable in that position. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.